Hello there, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
And welcome back.
So, aliens.
Dun 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 dun.
Dum dum.
Yes, alien.
Alien world discovered. Nearby super Earth could be the Rosetta Stone in the hunt for aliens. So, as we see an alien right there, there's Elon. Hey, Elon, what's up?
Oh, you notice Elon, alien?
Yeah, right? Well, he admitted it.
Yeah.
Tongue in cheek, or was it?
I know, then there's that.
So yet another super Earth discovered. They've discovered so many different planets. You know, it's that slow trickle, and we know it's slow trickle with an agenda.
It absolutely is, and it's an underlying agenda, and it's not nice.
So this one is Gliese 486b. And so this one has been discovered recently, and yet another possibility. You know, as far as they say, it's very similar to Earth, but just bigger, and could hold life. And again, there's been countless ones of those that they've come up with in recent times. And here we see out RT, organic building block for life found on asteroid surface for first time. Yeah, and you know, people have thought in the past that perhaps life comes to planets through comets, but maybe also asteroids.
Or maybe through the gods, the rocks of the gods.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they play a little cosmic pool.
That sounds like fun.
Well, you know, you remember when you got that before you got that there was forces out there, basically kind of Anunnakian type forces, and we'll get that little wiki thing going probably with this one, now that we said that word, that were actually kind of directing asteroids over in our way. And when you were going and remote viewing, like the Younger Dryas event that happened and stuff, the impression that you got, and I don't know if we ever shared this with people, was that it was a direction by certain beings to send something that ended up impacting around Greenland, and ended up also causing all these other impacts when we see the Carolina Bays that are all over the North American area, especially, you know, down in the Carolinas along the East Coast, but then also all the way over in Nebraska as well, and heading on up towards Canada. So these were multiple impacts from a big impact that ended up, you know, causing a major extinction event, which, you know, with what you've channeled along with what I got in my gut is, you know, that is the story about Enlil and humans being too noisy, and it's time to decrease the surplus population.
You know, but what I do get for sure is that human consciousness has the ability to move these giant rocks out of the way.
They don't want us, you know, sharing that, and they don't want you knowing that. But yes, we can, and we could also just say no, you know, and just say, hey, you know, we are done giving away our sovereignty and our free will. We want all the negative influences on this planet, both extraterrestrial and interdimensional, to take a hike.
Exactly. That's very true.
Yeah, and they will be taking a hike at some point, because they're not going to be able to hold on as we go deeper and deeper into the photon belt, and eventually, you know, they're going to go screaming, clawing, trying to hang on, you know, and we'll say bye-bye.
Right. You know, just like shadows get darker but smaller until they're gone. So
that's a good analogy. So yeah, here's another world. And meanwhile, you know, there's been a lot of videos popping up, and this is San Bernardino, California. Appears to show a mothership with dozens of UFOs surrounding it. Is that the case? Are they all drones? They don't move like the Starlink satellites. Now we have to question everything. You know, could it be a drone? Could it be the Starlink? Could it be, you know, anything that's man-made? Because there's a ton of man-made stuff. And then they've also planted the seed of Project Bluebeam to get us to doubt, you know, our eyes even more, you know, with quote-unquote fake alien invasion. And then you'll have people that will throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, hey, Project Bluebeam, it's going to be a fake alien invasion. So that must mean there's no such thing as aliens. No.
I know, that's where we have to think for ourselves, be our own, critical thinking, I think it's called.
Exactly. And, it can get, frustrating talking to some people that just don't want to wake up. And here we see near Charlotte, string of lights. Well, a perfect string is what we've seen with the Starlink. But then there's, some other unusual ones. We've seen the Pentagon declassifying previously leaked videos of UFOs. Why would they give us anything? Why would they tell us, yeah, we have been analyzing stuff, and yeah, there are things that aren't ours? Well, because they're going to be forced by the good guys, because the good guys are pressing the matter and they want, disclosure to come out. So they got to give us something, because, the Galactic Federation and others are being seen. When we were spending nights in the desert in Nevada, holy crap, we saw so much ET activity going to and from like Area 51 area over onto Nellis. And, it was pretty wild, because Cindy could hone in on them. I could hone in on them a little bit. And then they would blink out when they realized that we were looking at them. When they could feel our consciousness latching on and analyzing them, remote viewing them basically, then they would like look at us and like put up their shields, and all of a sudden the lights would go out and you wouldn't see them anymore. Or you might start to see one other ship, because we were watching like a line of ships. It was like they were going out of one portal into another.
I know, and they do have special beings on those ships to see if people are looking at them. They can feel that attention, and when they feel that attention, then, like Mike said, the lights go out.
And, a lot of the beings that we were seeing, a lot of them were kind of neutral. I mean, they weren't really, they weren't the bad guys. They weren't the Draco and Anunnaki reptilians or the Greys, the short and the tall Greys. They were weird species of people that are just neutral, kind of doing commerce, kind of, trading and doing business sort of. And that was a lot of them. And then others, there was a lot of stuff over in that desert that we experienced in that camper. A lot of others were just curious about us, because they don't see a lot of humans that have activated Merkabas. And so it's like seeing a bright orb to them. And that's what you've described it as. When they see us, it's like they're looking at us and they don't see our bodies. They see an orb of light that's unusually bright.
Yes, that's exactly right. So I've been able to look from inside of them to see what they see, and it is unusually bright, it is distinct, and it is different. And that's what's happening when we develop our energy bodies, and during evolution we're all getting a little bit brighter.
Yes, so we're all gonna get more attention. And then we've worked on a lot of people that we've activated them. We've cleared blockages in their chakras, so now their kundalini's starting to flow, and you might feel it, that warmth going up the spine. And when you get sensitive enough, you could tell which chakras you got to work on, because the warmth might stop at the belly button area, or it might stop at your solar plexus, or it might stop at your heart, or maybe it stops at your throat. And, then okay, well, I got a blockage in this chakra. And so the key is, getting the chakras and keeping them open, keeping them open, so that the flow of energy can keep moving upwards. And then you'll be able to start to perceive things. Then they'll also be able to say, hey, this human is, well, it looks different. So you will get attention when, your kundalini has risen. And then people do seem to experience that a lot. And sometimes it could be cool, and sometimes, you might have negative entities that are coming to try to latch onto you. And here you see shocking documents show the government paid millions to chase UFOs and werewolves. Well, specifically dogmen. And dogmen are real, and they are, well, we got recently that there are a lot of dogmen being activated right now to combat the DRACO. And they were basically in stasis on the planet planted there by the good guys.
You're right. It is interesting that I did just channel that, and here we go.
Yeah, I mean, here you go. So, there is reality is a lot stranger than most people realize. I mean, it's mind blowing. And some people, whenever we get everything disclosed, if we ever do, or when it's just out there in our face because you're seeing it yourself, I mean, a lot of people are going to be having weak knees.
I know they are, and it's, just hang on tight because things are going to change.
Yeah, so, this is very interesting, and it gets into all these different studies, all these different reports, investigating these things, going over to even Skinwalker Ranch, and because that's a portal area. There's so many different portal areas. There's so many sightings of these dogmen type beings in Michigan, also Louisiana. There's some scary stuff in Louisiana swamps, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there sure is, those cryptids.
Yes, and in many places. And so this is interesting to see what the government, is really doing with their money and what they are taking seriously. Pentagon sort of, but not really, admits it's been testing wreckage from UFO crashes, and findings may change our lives forever. Yeah, because we've never been alone. That's the bottom line. This hovering ship is just cool. We just had to share this. So they say it's because of the interaction of, cold air and hot air, and it causes the illusion that this ship is floating out there. Or maybe they got a little anti-gravity going.
I don't know, you guys. This is a really, really good one, and they're spreading the picture all over, saying, "Look at this illusion."
Yeah, this is off the coast of England, and yeah, nothing to see here, guys. Nothing to see here. This is just that waviness that comes off of a hot road. Well, it's the same sort of thing. Yeah, that's it.
That's all it is. Nothing to see here.
Nothing at all. And these little robot dogs, they're creepy enough. And as we've shared, we've seen some that were bigger than trucks, huge, the size of tanks. But this is after the SpaceX explosion, so they got a robot dog out there using it to check for anything. You're going to be seeing these things. We're going to be seeing craziness. We're going to be seeing robotics that's going to be scary. And I don't know why anybody would want to kiss a robot, honestly. I have nothing against robots, but I just, they're trying to sell us on all this stuff here. So the ant people of the Hopi, who took us in, and again, the ant people, if you translate it, it's again that Anunnaki word, and some of these, and that's a big broad word too, and basically when we're talking about these beings that come from the sky, there's good, bad, and in between.
Yes, there is, and that's what we tend to forget. We just think that it's all painted with one brush, but no, as many different personalities as you have, as I have, as your friends have, they have.
So it's not like, if we're studying ufology, it seems like a lot of people either focus on modern ufology or they focus on the ancient astronauts. Instead of interweaving, we should look at everything and look at all the different traditions. So, here you have in American Southwest, they say that really all the Native American tribes of that area came out from a single place after being guided down into the earth to survive a major cataclysm on the surface. And you and I have explored a lot of places. We've seen places in New Mexico, for instance, where the entrance to kind of like a cave, and then there's a cliff dwelling in it. There's like adobe that they've built up to kind of seal a cave in, and it might be like 50 feet or 100 feet off the ground, trying to escape something, trying to wall themselves in. And then you've even remote viewed and seen that they were afraid. There was water around. But also the situation was so bad that sometimes they were resorting to, the CANNI, ballism. So, what are these ant beings? When we look at all the different legends and all the different myths, there's beings that live inside the earth. And then we have Agartha, we have Shambhala, we have Telos, which we had experiences when we were up at Shasta again. And, there was in our room in a fourth density, basically a Telosian, sitting right by us. And then we also experienced horrible draconian energy up there at Shasta as well. So, here you have it. And it's not just there. How about the Dogon tribe? The Dogon tribe in Africa, how did they know about Sirius B? They knew Sirius B existed. You can't see it. It's a binary system, actually, perhaps even a trinary with us. How did they know that it existed?
I know, and obviously they don't have like internet and stuff to find this information out. So it had to have been passed down from somewhere.
And they know all about these quote-unquote beings that come from space and come down. And, they dress up mimicking them. And even talk about different star systems. So, here we have people on a totally different side of the globe that talk about the interaction with ETs and IDs, extraterrestrials, interdimensionals. So the Dogon religion and oral tribal history suggests the Dogon tribe was visited by aliens from the Sirius star group long ago. These aliens were amphibious beings that bestowed their knowledge of their home to the Dogon. The Dogon call these aliens the Nomos, and it would appear the Dogon had extensive knowledge of the Sirius star system before the outside world had a chance to give it to them.
I know. So, we need to look at these things and take them as they are, because these people don't have contact with anyone but themselves and what's been passed down to them.
Sirius B is invisible to the naked eye. According to anthropologists who visited Dogon in the 1930s, the tribe was aware of the existence of the star, which they called Po-Tolo. Furthermore, they knew every detail about the white dwarf near Sirius B. They knew the length of its orbit in years, the shape of the orbit, and the fact that the white dwarf is quite dense. The Dogon also say there's another star in the system they call Emaya. Thus far, Emaya has not been found by astronomers. Of course, it may not even exist. How did they know? This is it. But they also know about the reptilians, and they have stories about the reptilians. They have legends and stories of alien visitors. And, again, Dogon, Dagon. And when we talk about Dagon, Dagon is basically like a fish man, and so we could see how all these things go together. It's obvious, there's too much. There's far, far, far too much, as you see, a photo here, Dagon the fish god. He's carrying his little Manny purse.
I know. So here we have beings who have not been corrupted and manipulated, and they still carry on the ancient stories. And I tend to believe this way more than I would believe mainstream.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, unfortunately, so many people are conditioned to have this worldview that's been given to us ultimately through the secret societies. Goes back to Constantine the Great, thinking that everything's Earth-centric. There's no other life out there. In fact, if you even said that, the Earth revolves around the sun in the Dark Ages, and back in ancient times, they would have killed you.
Mm-hmm. I know, you would get in deep trouble, thrown in prison, these things.
But they had that knowledge.
Yes.
The people in the inner circle had the knowledge. They just wanted to keep people in the dark.
I know, right? Well, right now, it's just you kind of get laughed at and shunned a little bit. But back then, it was more serious.
And, if you want to really shed light on the subject, go into, the scriptures from the Indus Valley civilization, because it's clear. As you see here, Colony Earth and the Rig Veda, Part 1. Earth is only one of hundreds of colonies in our galaxy, which is home to 100 billion alien planets. Now is the time for this self-evident truth to be accepted. Planet Earth is a sacred cosmic life laboratory for the creation of a wondrous variety of beings. It's all about the DNA. And so, the Rig Veda, which predates anything biblical by thousands and thousands of years, given to us by the rishis, these seers, who we could also view as ascended masters, talk all about this. 432,000 humanoid species, in our galaxy alone is what's recognized. And then also seeing the Vimanas and seeing these beings flying in the sky was a common thing. It was just like, oh, there he goes. That's got to be so-and-so. I mean, this is what they were seeing just thousands of years ago, and knowing that these were certain particular advanced beings.
So, I mean, we can safely say that we are not the pinnacle of modern technology society.
No, not even close. Not even close. And unfortunately, the good ones that were here helping and guiding us in a benevolent way have been gone. And that's why we've been in the Kali Yuga. We've been in the Dark Age. So the teachings of the Dark Age is the teachings of the powers that be that are on this planet. The I word, the CABAL word, the DEEP word, and that's just, basically all those things are just basically puppets for the puppet masters.
Yes, very important. Once we start to recognize that, then we could start moving forward.
And there's so much knowledge in these. I think it was our brother Nathan that said that, if you didn't have the Bible in the world, there would be no light in the world. And, I would encourage people to go ahead and open and expand your mind, and look into these things that we're talking about here. There's so much wisdom in the Tao Te Ching, the I Ching, in the Puranas, in the Vedas, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata. We could go on and on with all these amazing, scriptures and books that have tons of light, that actually get into detail about what is consciousness, which, is not so clearly explained in the Western tradition. In the Western tradition, we get a lot of, more along the lines of the Anunnakian way of things, which is a control grid system that's keeping our minds locked into a small vibrational frequency. It's all about bowing down, worshiping, and serving. It's not an exploration of consciousness. What is consciousness? How did everything start? These are the things you get when you start studying the Eastern traditions and understanding of different dimensions, of different planets and stars and frequencies and vibrations. And, there's so much more science out there that really, when we have now gotten to understand quantum physics, it completely goes hand in hand with everything that we're learning, even from Buddhism. The world is all Maya. Well, yeah, because it's a holographic simulation, that's our brain can interact with and give us this experience in this reality. And that's all been basically explained in other ways in the Eastern traditions. And you just don't get that in out of the Judeo-Christian tradition until you go into the Kabbalah and the Western mystery traditions. That's where this is held. But it's been held underneath the surface, because if it was out in the open, even in the 14th century, you still might end up getting boiled in oil.
Oh, well, they've really conditioned us to be afraid to step out of the Bible. Since we're really little, going to preschool, they've conditioned us to just learn from this one book and believe that a man with a beard kind of rules over everyone, and you should have some sort of a fear over him, and that if you go outside of this book, you're going to burn in hell forever. And that really plays on the ego, because we're created beings to survive. So if we're threatened with eternal death, I mean, what do you think that's going to do to our souls? So people don't even bother to step out of the realm to look beyond and look into things like tarot cards, astrology, and all of these other educational, the Tao. I mean, there's so much out there that they've conditioned people to be afraid to look at. And it's really important that we expand ourselves. Now's the time. Humans are evolving. Humans are expanding. Now's the time to do it.
So, this is really a good article. And again, as it says, Earth is only one of hundreds of colonies in the galaxy, which is home to 100 billion alien planets. Now is the time for this self-evident truth to be accepted. Planet Earth is a sacred cosmic life laboratory for the creation of wondrous variety of beings. What is created here may be shared with other planets and living beings that inhabit or will inhabit the planets throughout the universe. Repeating cycles of ice ages and warm periods on Earth are fertile ground for the evolutionary seeding, nurturing, and tempering of the races. These cycles create an environment conducive to the spiritual, mental, and emotional development and perfection of beings. The Rig Veda is our most accurate window into ancient times. The seers, the rishis who wrote these hymns, were not only enlightened adepts and genius poets, they were also masters of highly advanced technology and sciences, which include space, the heliosphere, aerial ships, radiation weaponry, and climate modification. What you read here does not diminish or disregard the value of spiritual knowledge in the ancient Sanskrit texts or the importance of seeking enlightenment. In fact, this off-world perspective embraces and rejoices in the magnificence of the Creator, the oneness that supports the temporal holographic universe with its vast spectrum of dimensional realms. Nor does this conclusion demean humanity in any way, for it also celebrates the greatness of every courageous soul who has chosen to come here to participate in the ongoing process of the seeding of the universe. When we see things like the Betty Andreasson abduction case, and she's taking up into a ship, and then she sees all these cylinders with people in stasis, all different races of people, all different types of beings, some even non-humanoid. When we look into the Anunnaki texts and stuff, there's things that look like test tubes, that they're working with DNA. There's case after case. It's all about DNA. It's all about creation. We have all these mythological, quote unquote, not really mythological, hybrids that are created as well. It's pretty obvious. It's clearly stated here. And there's a lot of interesting articles in this. I'll give you guys the link to Galactic Cosmology and Theology of the Holy Vedas and the Puranas. It is science. It's science, and it's also quantum physics. And they understood quantum physics. It's not Newtonian at all. It's much more advanced than that. And again, it's how we are in this fractal holographic matrix.
Oh, most definitely. And we don't completely understand it. And it's kind of like little children feeling our way around in the dark because of our education has been only to appease the elites. And we've only been created as little batteries to run their giant systems, their banks, their hospitals, and so on. But now is the time to understand that our energy does more than we could ever imagine, but at least explore. You just don't know until you look at things, and then you start to see how curious things can be. And that's what it's like right now. It's like little kids in the dark, or kind of sometimes even in a candy store. It's like really interesting the things we're finding out these days.
Exactly. So unfortunately, so much of our conditioning is of a negative sort. Like thinking that we are born into original sin. Why? Well, because Adam gave Eve an apple, or Eve gave Adam an apple, and he bit it. So because of that, every human ever created, the billions, tens of billions of humans, they're all born into original sin, and thus they all are destined to be thrown into a fiery pit forever, tortured indefinitely, unless you believe that, Jesus, Yeshua, came and died for your sins. Why? Well, why did he have to do that? Well, because God said he did. It's totally illogical, and if you meditate on it, you'll see that whole line of thinking, it just doesn't make any sense, and so, as we've said, there is truth in the Bible. There is truth in Holy Scriptures all over the world. But there's also corruption, and there's also a lot of things planted in there to keep your consciousness in a lower frame of mind, in a slave mentality, And when we see the Anunnaki pictures of, these beings leading humans around, tied, hands tied behind their back, they're tied, neck to neck. That's the mentality. And that's the whole thing. Well, okay, so what did they do? What did Adam and Eve do? Well, they disobeyed God. So they disobeyed an Anunnaki God. They didn't disobey the prime creator. What you're talking about is humans doing their own thing. That's the original sin against the Anunnaki, the Draco.
Yeah, if you, there is no such thing as going against the prime creator. It's all about experience your creation here on earth. So whatever you choose to experience is, well, that's what source is experiencing. And right now we have the option to start to work together and experience things on more of a unity kind of a level, and we need to heal. In order to do that, we need to heal. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things that just don't make any sense that they did to us, and understanding that there's trauma there and forgiving yourself, for whatever, you're just here to be, and you're here to see, and you're here to experience. Leave it at that.
Yes. And so again, what we get from the Western mystery tradition, what we get from the Eastern traditions, is that ultimately, the true creator of all lies within all of its creation. So you are, in effect, every single being out there, even, plants, like them looking at two amazingly huge basil plants right now that we're going to be taking with us on the road because we're not going to let them go. Even these plants are God, the true prime creator, exploring its creation. This is how the universe works. If God was not in everything, if he was only in, say, the being Yeshua, Jesus, and not in everything else, then he's not omnipresent. There you go. It's, if God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, it must be in all of its creation. It's just logic. And it's just science. This is the type of thing that, unfortunately, so many people have been conditioned that they cannot conceive of it. They just cannot understand. And thus, this is how we still have the sheeple. We have the zombies of the zombie apocalypse walking around still in the dark, thinking they're in the light, but they're actually in the dark.
Well, even, looking at the word science and being careful how we use that, because our science that we're aware of, they've created these lines and these parameters in which we can say, oh, well, this is proof, but only this is proof. So that's the kind of mindset we need to break out of, I feel.
Most definitely, because we know they manipulate things. This is why I always put more faith in going deeper back into comparing what we get from the different traditions, looking way back and looking in these times too with what we have discovered, and then weighing everything and you have to go within. This is where, if you're not doing a daily meditative practice, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you really need to. I mean, without really knowing, with a G for gnosis, which is experiential, everything is just programming. It's just data that goes into the brain without, getting to that point where you can step outside, developing the ability to move and shift your consciousness out of the physical body for brief periods of time to feel the expansiveness that is out there, and knowing that when the body dies, you're still there. Your consciousness.
And, prioritizing your spiritual practice too. There were times in my life where I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning to get my meditation and mantras in. There were times in my life I went out to my car. I hid in my bathroom. You prioritize and you do what it takes when you're ready for that expansiveness. It's not easy. And I know so many of you are extremely busy, but if you can just even fit in 5 minutes to quiet your mind and build your energy, that's going to change your world.
It is. So if Yeshua wasn't here to become a blood sacrifice, what was he here for?
Well, he was here to teach us the true way.
Exactly.
He was here to teach us about expansion. He was here to teach us about our light body. He was here to teach us about freedom.
He was here to basically teach us ascension mysteries and consciousness. And, everything got twisted. You got to ask yourself, Cain and Abel, why was Cain's offering of, fruits and veggies and all nice things like that rejected, and instead a blood sacrifice was accepted? That tells you right there that being is not the creator of everything. That's basically what we see. Blood sacrifices were done in mass in many places, and these things were done in Mesoamerica. As we know, they used to cut the hearts out of people that they captured, offering it to the, really these dark, demonic, reptilian entities is who demands blood sacrifice.
Otherwise, they might do something like not allow the sun to rise the next day.
Yeah, transubstantiation, right? Look at the Catholic faith and the belief that you go up there and you drink the blood of Christ and you eat the body of Christ. That is CANN, Ibalism.
Yes. It is. And I've heard people also say, like, when they talk about Cain and Abel is in Cain, and you put the two together, you have that word you just said.
Cannibalism.
I know. So it's like going a little bit deeper, and you don't have to go that deep either, where you can start seeing these things that are just absolutely morbid, and it's not okay.
Yes. Again, the whole English language too. Good morning.
Yes.
We are going to study script. Sure. Yes. And we're going to throw some spelling lessons.
I know, and in how we teach our children spelling at such a young age.
Yes. So waking up to the fact that everything in our modern, traditional, Western system has been constructed to keep your consciousness locked down, to keep you in the dark, to keep you in control. It could be a hard pill to swallow. That red pill, blue pill thing. There are those that say, plug me back into the matrix. I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I've heard people absolutely say that too. They're like, no, then I have to go back and relearn everything, and they're just not going to do it. But that's their journey. That's what they want to do, and that's okay.
Yes. So getting back to, well, then what was the purpose of the Christ? Well, we had talked about the fact that, Yeshua was in a scene, and he was teaching the Ascension mysteries, and he was teaching us how to ascend, how to develop that kingdom of heaven on earth. Again, he even said, people are going to say, look, here comes the kingdom, here comes there, look here, look there, there he is in the sky now. No, because it's all about personal transformation. It's about Christ consciousness, and that's the only way. And we could look again to all these different references. If the light of thine eye be single. So that's all about awakening the Kundalini and opening up the pineal gland. Where did Jacob wrestle with the angel of the Lord? At pineal. Pineal. See, this is these are the things that are hidden in there. Again, his kingdom is one that is heart-centered and it's unity consciousness-based. When we look to the law of one, it says that he was a fifth density wanderer. Wanderer, starseeds, basically people that come in order to try to help elevate the consciousness of the planet. How does, believing in a blood sacrifice elevate the consciousness of the planet? It doesn't. It hasn't. Look at the conditions now, 2,000 years later. Obviously, we're still under the dark system. That line of thinking hasn't worked. So now it's time for the mysteries to be exposed and for people to work on developing their own Christ consciousness.
And that's a good question to ask yourself, is like, how is this working for me? How are things going around me? Are they a little bit rough and kind of difficult to deal with? Can things be done another way? Is there different ways to look at things? And just start with that.
Exactly. So the whole line of thinking that we need this blood sacrifice to wash away our original sin that we committed against our Anunnaki lords, that whole thing just goes away. then you got to say, what's the teachings? Well, also Yeshua said that, why are you, stunned in disbelief over the things I've done? You're going to do greater. Well, if, the true creator is only in him and not in you and I, how could we possibly do greater? We couldn't. So it's another one of those things where you have to come to a realization that there's much more to the picture. We don't need a savior in the sense of a blood sacrifice. We need somebody to be a guide for enlightenment and to show us the way, the true way to the higher densities, to the true sources of love and light and peace and these higher vibrational frequencies.
And starting with listening to your own heart.
Yes, going within. You got to go within and connect with Source, God, Prime Creator, however you want to word it. And I think we should leave it at that for this one. So we went off a little bit, but I wanted to address some of the comments that are out there and some of the lines of thinking, because I do think that there are people that have blinders on and they don't even realize they have blinders on, and they can only walk in one direction because they haven't even opened up their mind to other possibilities because of the deep, deep, deep societal conditioning that we all get.
Exactly. Definitely something to think about.
Thanks for being part of the family. Make sure you guys are subscribed and have the bell clicked for notifications. Thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without you guys. To set up an appointment with us, it's EEARTS at Proton Mail or evolutionaryenergyarts at gmail.com. And Cindy's going to give us a ding.
God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.